something that I think they've done really well on the show is taking this idea of channeling and making it a little bit more fun and a little bit more interesting and coming up with different ways of channeling that look exciting and that have new ways of like doing things. For example, I'm going to pick just two random people. Let's say like Varen, and let's take Reyna from the Yellow Aja.
Rima?
Both of these characters, two different Ajas, right? Brown Aja, yellow Aja.
Yeah.
So in episode 1, we see Varen do a little bit of channeling. And what I think is really interesting is they've made what she does with her channeling coincide with her Aja. Because, Brown, knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
She would have this background on the Fades or the Murdral, right? Like she would probably know more about these creatures than someone who is, let's say, like in the Blue Aja or the Yellow Aja. It's something that she might have studied or looked into. So what does she do when that Murdral shows up? Well, the Murdral doesn't have eyes. So first she like hits it with this like concussive sound and disorients it. So like she's utilized her knowledge of the Murdral not having eyes and probably using its sense of sound to like stun it. But then on top of that, she channels fire into her warder Tomas's sword. And then that creates light. So he's essentially fighting this thing with like a torch. And what that does is it creates like less shadow for the Murdral to be quick in. Like it's utilizing its weakness. She's got the sound thing going for her. Then she lights everything up and he's easy, fresh kill. Yeah. Wipes hands clean. Like that was it. Well done, Varen. She utilized her knowledge in that instance and used it effectively. Then we move to Rima from the Yellow Aja. Yeah. She does something similar where as a healer, she has to have knowledge of anatomy and bones and physiology and like how the body works. Yes. As a Yellow Aja, as a healer. Yeah. So what does she do? She uses that to her advantage and she like breaks this woman's bones and like contorts her into just like a slinky. Yeah. Okay? And in the books, we do not get stuff like that. Like, it's just like, like fire, weaves of air. Like, explosions. Sure, towards the end, we get some of the things like maybe Andrel can do. Yeah. Where, like, Brandon Sanderson was like, I kind of want to fuss with the magic system a little bit because that's, like, his thing. That's what he's interested in. But the Wheel of Time TV show, in my opinion, has done things that Brandon Sanderson didn't even think of doing. Yes. Where it's like they've actually taken it a step further and have been like, okay, well, like we have these women, they can do magic. Let's utilize it and let's make it cool and let's make it interesting and let's do things with it that probably people who have been reading these books have thought like, I wonder why they never did that. Yeah. Like if I could do magic, I would want to do this. Yes. And I think that's one of these things with this show that really stood out to me where it's like they're taking creative ideas and really pun here, but like weaving them into the story that makes it, I feel like, more thought out and more creative and more exciting. And I just love it. And I mean, it's really long-winded. Very sorry.
I loved it. Don't be sorry. That was actually really well said. And like it really, you're right. You're absolutely right. And I do think that especially, like I didn't necessarily think about it when Varen was channeling in that moment, but definitely like the scene with Rima where she's like, it's like a crushing a Coke can in some ways. But like now we get to see in the TV show what knowledge of the body combined with the one power combined with the wildness of losing your warder can produce.
It almost makes the Green Aja kind of boring. Like, honestly, like what, like air, fire, like, okay. But I'm assuming here that if we follow the book plotline of the Two Rivers,
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get to see Alana do some really interesting stuff coming
Ooh,
up. And the
yeah.
way that they've utilized that actress, I feel like they will want to give her some really cool
Absolutely.
stuff.
Yeah.
Where in this season, she does a little bit of like water filtration. It looked great. Like the visuals were wonderful, but
Yeah.
it's not exactly befitting to like the green Aja, if you will, to do
Yeah.
like this demonstration when we know what Alana is capable of.
Yeah. Have we touched on Gideon? I'm very curious to see how she's going to show up in season 3 because she's going to show up a lot, is my opinion.
Yeah. This is a very different Mogideon than what I expected. But saying that, I really do like what she's like. Like, I like this unhinged, like, very almost manic
Yeah. Yeah.
toying with Lanfear. It's really satisfying seeing Lanfear, who is just such a better channeler than anyone
Yes.
that we've seen, female of the women
Mm-hmm.
that we've seen
Mm-hmm.
so far, and just how effortless she is when she channels. I do really like the style of
Yeah.
how they were showing different channelers. Like Moraine has these like beautiful, like Zen like winding up, like almost like supercharging herself, but she has to do it through these motions, which New Spring, she likes to dance a little bit when she's
Yes.
channeling in the
Oh,
arches.
yes. I love
But with
that.
Lanfear, it's totally different. It's just like this. She's bored almost. Just
Yeah.
like these little sparks just coming out of her in this effortless way. And then with Mogideon, I love how she's playing with the weaves in her hands, like fidgeting with it.
Yes.
Almost like
Yeah.
this nervous energy. I could see someone in the mindset of being someone who hides in the shadows. You could see them
Yes.
having like this nervous energy and kind of this anxiety of having a weave ready in your hands, ready to go at all times. Because Book Mogideon, she's not the strongest, but
Right.
she's prepared. And I
Mm-hmm.
really enjoy that about her, especially in that
Mm-hmm.
scene, because it's like, whoa, how could
Mm-hmm.
Mogideon take on Lanfear? Like, that's not right.
Right.
But no, like, that's Mogideon to a T. She should be
Mm-hmm.
waiting in the shadows, ready to go. Like, she's already set her trap. That's
Yep.
what she does. She sets traps. And
Yep.
then on top of that, just the way that they made her weaves look was really interesting. And I love
Yes.
how they're doing that with different characters. And I really,
Yes.
to come full circle, it makes me hopeful that when we spend more time with Egwene, Nynaeve, Elaine, and Avienda, their weaves will start looking very distinguished. Where if you
Ooh.
saw a weave, you'd be like, oh, that was like an Avienda weave. Definitely.
Yeah.
Like it would be
Yeah.
very cool to start seeing what our characters' go to weaves are and what their threads tend to look like. And I think
Uh-huh.
it's just really exciting to see something like that visually, because in the books, like, even if you described it, how like someone's characteristic weaves would look, like it's not the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think visually that gives you a lot of opportunities to do something different and fun. And I know that they're working really hard with the visuals, and I know that it's
Yeah.
such a big deal to the showrunner, to the cast and crew, like that this looks like something that people haven't quite yet seen yet.
Yeah.
Going back to
Yeah.
the Comic-Con thing, they had some of the visual effects people, and they were saying, look, like if you look closely, the weaves of water have like little moisture droplets on them. And then like
Yeah.
fire has like sparks
Yep.
coming off of it. So they're
Mm-hmm.
really starting to think about these things.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay, like, all right now. So that means they're probably taking this in a lot more directions than people have really thought about yet. And
Yeah.
that's really cool. And like showing Mogideon, seeing her sitting there with, I mean, I know it's like spiderweb esque, but like
Yeah.
it's real stretchy and it's almost got this like chewing gum type sensation, the way she's playing
Yes.
with it.
Yes.
And then also the way that it kind of encapsulates Lanfear. it almost has this like bouncy quality where I'm like, oh, that's different. Like we haven't seen a weave react like that before. Like we
Yeah.
haven't seen something like that kind of bouncing in that
Yes.
manner. Even the weaves of air where someone's like wrapped in weaves of air so they can't move, it's usually like it looks rope-like, you know?
Yes. Yeah, it does.
And also another thing that I was thinking about in terms of like a weave that we haven't really seen yet, like we
Yeah.
haven't really seen what compulsion looks like yet in terms of
Yeah.
how the weave looks. So that's something that
Yes.
could be very interesting
Ooh,
because you don't
yeah.
want it to look too like Jungle Book, you know, like the snake eyes where it's like hypnotizing
Yes.
someone. But you want to show that there's some type of magic happening here. So they're going to have to come up with something. And I bet that's been a really fun project for them to work on.